Hi, this is The Philosophical Angle, and I'm your host, Chris Angle. I am the author of 4 books on philosophy, one of which is The Philosophical Equations of Economics, and I'm here with my colleague and co-host, Rick Samuelson, a venture capitalist on the West Coast, and he's a graduate of Yale and Wharton. Good to see you, Rick.
And you?
The purpose of The Philosophical Angle is to define concepts in current media, and this week we're going to explore the question of why did the Democrats, 100% of them, vote against the tax reform bill. 100% total no votes against the reduction of taxation in the United States, which makes our corporations competitive worldwide. Why would they all be against that? Surely there will be some societal benefits, reducing corporate taxation and reducing individual taxation. And so we've got to explore the reasons why. So there are 2 dimensions of the answer to this. One is theoretical, which I'm about to go, or philosophical, which I'm about to go into, and the other one is a practical matter, which we're going to ask Rick about later, about the practical matter of tax reduction for an economy. But to begin, I'd like to discuss what is the essence of the right and the left, and see where that may lead us in understanding why the Democrats, on this simple issue and a beneficial issue, I might add, I would think, why they couldn't participate. So I'm going to say that the right is its basic assumptions of a conservative, of a Republican, is that others are inherently good, and in a society of those who possess goodness, it comes naturally and with an ease, the will to cooperate with those in your society. And when we cooperate to produce goods and services, these goods and services are for the benefit of society. They're good for society, and the essence of goodness is that it brings us up away from misery. And so cutting taxes would be one way to bring an efficiency into the production of these goods and services. And so I think it's the Republicans, they naturally want to participate in something like this. The left, on the other hand, the basic assumption that the left has of others is that they are inherently bad. It's the total opposite of a conservative. And in political ideology, there is no cooperation with the other side, which is in this case the Republicans, to produce any desired result, because they don't want to, because they feel that the other side is inherently bad. And if they're bad, they must have human faults and frailties and detractions and they're and they're right. Humans are not perfect. They're not angels. They have detractions. They have faults. And so the left views that of those who are not liberal, such as independents or conservatives, that they must be governed, they must be regulated and controlled so that they do not do bad things, which they are wont to do because they are inherently bad. And so the socialist utopian Democrat naturally likes big government. Therefore they look to government first to solve and control societal problems. And they look to government first because the government has the power to coerce. It can force their ends that they mean to achieve. It is the means to their ends because it has more power than anything else around. That is, the government has more power. And thus the socialist utopian Democrat, the liberals, they employ the methodology of the ends justifies the means. They don't care if it's good. They don't care if something is good for society, like this tax reduction package. They only care for their objectives, which is their social equality, and the tax code that they would like helps with this objective. They use the tax code to take from the haves to give to the haves not. So because the Republicans are inherently bad, this means that not only are they bigoted and racist and have all the other traits of badness, such as they can't be trusted, they're not compassionate, they're greedy, they don't care about the poor, and so yes, they are inherently bad. They are human. Everybody's human, and in fact, the left believes that those who are not of the left are evil. So they're not to be trusted. Nothing good can come of a tax reduction. Their view is that because they're evil, nothing good can come of this. And after all, it will just benefit them, the Republicans, the conservatives, because they're selfish and greedy. They are essentially bad, and as such, they have all the characteristics of that which is emblematic of that which is bad, and so they just couldn't participate because of their view of the nature of Republicans and others who are not of their philosophical views. So we're gonna ask Rick now what he thinks of the tax reduction package, and is it beneficial? Is it going to be beneficial for the United States? Rick, what do you think?
It already has been, and very obviously so. One of the problems afflicting recent U.S. economic history, and it's easily measured, is low corporate investment. For upwards of 10 years, corporate America has been at the margin buying back shares rather than investing. And the consequence of that is that productivity growth has been very, very low. And that is one of the reasons wages have stagnated. Not the only reason, but it's one of them. The other reason, of course, is that we have excess labor. But that's another issue. And you see this in the writings of hyper liberals like Alan Blinder, Princeton, or Paul Krugman. There's a notion that somehow the economy is fixed, and if you lower taxes, the tax rate, the tax receipts will, mathematically be reduced. Okay, and you see this argument in many, many different forms, and it's irresponsible, and there's a lot of, hand waving surrounding that. And the reality of an economy, of course, is that it's dynamic, right? Companies prosper, others fail, continues to grow. Ideally, productivity is enhanced over time, so a worker can produce more stuff. Robots are invested in, and that helps automate the process and lower the cost of goods sold, so on and so on. All of that is either ignored or viewed as a very secondary issue within a normal economy. And so they inevitably come up with the conclusion that if we're to maintain our regime of robbing from the rich to give to the poor, otherwise known as wealth redistribution, we must maximize tax rates on all fronts, because that's how we achieve, as you rightly say, our utopian progressive dream. What we are seeing instead is evidence already. If you read the Wall Street Journal, almost every day there's an article about Yesterday it was J.P. Morgan that's going to invest heavily in the United States again. Um, there was an article last week about Apple bringing billions of dollars back into the United States because of the tax holiday that um, the tax reform allows for, and that's a couple of trillion at least that's sitting in overseas accounts. Dublin is suddenly worried that U.S. corporations like Facebook are going to pull out of there because the tax advantages aren't as compelling as they were. I mean, these kinds of data points are coming up all over the place. And you don't see any news of corporate titans uh, being disappointed with the tax reform. I haven't read a single article to that effect.
Right.
Not a single article.
You meant.
And
Go ahead.
and then the obvious performance of the stock market and the economy. We're even seeing in some locations like Minnesota, unemployment fall below 3%, and wages are actually going up.
Right.
What a surprise.
Hey, you mentioned just now that the percentage of labor unemployment in Minnesota is now hit 3%. Nationwide, it's just over 4%. So, but you mentioned earlier that there was excess labor.
Yes, there's 7 million, at least 7 million workers that have left the workforce and aren't counted anymore, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, this is the usual government. It's like the inflation number. My health insurance is going up at 7% a year, and they keep telling me inflation's 2%. Well, that's not true.
Oh, so you're
These are
referring.
all managed numbers. The unemployment figure is a managed number. Inflation's a managed number, and there's there are compelling reasons to do that. The government does not want inflation to appear high because colas are costly.
So actually, you were probably referring to the employment population ratio.
Yes. Well, the percentage, what needs to be tracked, but they won't do it, is the percentage of the population that's working.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that remains well below historic highs.
Correct.
So they're still slack. They're still slack. And that the problem with giving away 1 million green cards or more every year is it's very difficult to get the slack out of the system. And so you just get no wage growth.
That's right. Okay. Thanks very much for everybody for joining us here on the Philosophical Angle program, and we'll see you next week.